The Miami Dolphins are at a pivotal moment, balancing on a razor's edge between playoff hopes and potential collapse. Sitting at 4-6, they've managed to fight their way back into the playoff picture, thanks in part to a favorable schedule ahead. But the foundation of this team feels shaky, and much of that uncertainty revolves around Tua Tagovailoa. His health is a question mark, and his presence on the field feels like a fleeting thing. Every time he drops back to pass, it's impossible not to wonder, will this be the moment? Tua's concussion history casts a shadow over everything. For documented concussions in his career, and the brutal reality is that any hit could be his last. What if he decides this offseason that the risks outweigh the rewards? It's a thought no fan wants to entertain, but it's one the Dolphins can't afford to ignore. If Tua walks away, the ripple effects would be massive, forcing the franchise to rethink not just the quarterback position but the entire structure of the team. Financially, it would be a nightmare. Tua's massive 4-year, $212.4 million contract comes with $132 million guaranteed. If he retires due to injury, the Dolphins could still owe him up to $125 million. Even in a best-case scenario, where his retirement is classified as non-injury related, the team would be looking at a $90 million hit. That's money that ties their hands in free agency and limits their ability to address the holes that would inevitably emerge. Insurance might cover some of it, but it wouldn't erase the challenges that come with losing a franchise quarterback under such circumstances. If Tua does leave, the Dolphins face a grim reality at quarterback. Skylar Thompson, while serviceable as a backup, has shown little to suggest he could lead this team. The idea of drafting a quarterback becomes almost inevitable, but that's no guarantee of immediate success. Even the most highly touted rookies take time to develop. With their full slate of 2025 picks, Miami could trade up to target a top prospect like Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward, or Jalen Milroe. But drafting a young quarterback also means accepting that the team might not be competitive right away, especially with so many other moving parts on the roster. The domino effect of losing Tua wouldn't stop at quarterback. Tyreek Hill, the most electrifying player on the team, could be the next piece to fall. Hill has made it clear that he loves playing in Miami, but his bond with Tua is a big part of that. If Tua isn't there, would Hill want to stick around for what could be a lengthy rebuild? It's hard to imagine. Trading Hill would hurt, both emotionally and on the field, but it might be the best option for a team suddenly in transition. The good news, if you can call it that, is that a Hill trade wouldn't carry a dead cap hit. Even in what some might call a down year, Hill's value on the market would still be high, potentially fetching a couple of mid-round draft picks. If Hill goes, the Dolphins would lean heavily on Jalen Waddle. Waddle has already proven himself as a star in his own right, and his connection with Tua has been a bright spot in an otherwise inconsistent season. Rookie Malik Washington has shown flashes of potential as well, but it's a big leap to ask him to step into a larger role. The Dolphins would likely have to explore free agency or the draft to round out their receiving core, though their financial flexibility would be limited by Tua's contract situation. The defense, meanwhile, presents its own set of challenges. It's a mix of aging veterans and high-priced stars, many of whom haven't lived up to their contracts this year. Javon Holland is the centerpiece, and even in a so-called down year, his value to the team is unquestionable. Re-signing him has to be a priority. But what about players like Emmanuel Ogbah, Calais Campbell, and Benito Jones? None of them are guaranteed to return, and their departures would leave holes that need to be filled. Then there's the issue of Bradley Chubb and Jaylon Phillips. These two are supposed to be the anchors of the defense, but injuries have derailed their seasons. Between them, they've played just 4 games this year, yet they're set to make a combined $42 million next season. The hope is that both can stay healthy and finally deliver on their potential. Without them, the defense feels like a collection of mismatched pieces rather than a cohesive unit. If the Dolphins are forced into a rebuild, 2025 could become a developmental year. That's not an easy thing to sell to fans, but it might be the only way forward. Drafting young talent, especially on defense, would be a priority. The Dolphins need speed and athleticism, not another big-name signing like Jalen Ramsey. Building from within takes patience, but it's often the most sustainable path to long-term success. The thought of Tua retiring is sobering, but it forces the Dolphins to confront some uncomfortable truths about their roster. This team was built to win now, with a quarterback-friendly system, elite playmakers, and a defense stacked with star power. Take Tua out of the equation, and the flaws become impossible to ignore. It's not just about finding a quarterback, it's about rethinking what kind of team the Dolphins want to be. The road ahead is anything but clear. There are tough decisions to be made, and none of them come with guarantees. Whether it's trading Hill, drafting a new quarterback, or overhauling the defense, every move will have its critics. But that's the nature of the NFL, nothing stays the same for long. And for the Dolphins, change feels inevitable. What kind of team will emerge on the other side? That's the question no one can answer, not yet. But whatever happens, one thing is certain, it's going to be a wild ride.